Okay, today we are going to learn how to do radical equations. So a radical, remember, is the square root sign. Sometimes it'll be a cubed root, fourth root, but these are equations, so you're solving for x. So first, you need to get the radical by itself. That can be the only thing on that side of the equal sign. And then we are going to be doing square roots. So we are going to square both sides. Okay? Now, if you had a cubed root, you would cube both sides. Okay? So first we're going to start with this one. Okay? So here I see that there's only the square root. Okay? So I don't have to do anything to do anything beforehand. Okay? So we are going, since the radical is by itself, we are going to square each side. Okay? So when I do that, I'm going to get 16, because 4 squared is 16, is equal to 16x. And then I'm going to solve for x. So I divide each side by 16. And I get x is equal to 1. Okay? Now we're going to move on to this one. Okay? Again, these are all square roots. The only thing that is on this side of the equal sign is the radical. So again, I can go ahead and square both sides. When I square this, the reason that this is allowed is because you're doing the opposite. Like when we try and get x by itself, if we have x plus 5, we always do the opposite and we subtract 5. So the opposite of a square root is a square. So they cancel out the radical. So we're left with x over 3 is equal to 25. Now, I need to get x by itself. I'm going to multiply each side by 3. So these cancel. So I'm left with x is equal to 75. Now this problem here, the minus 2 is not in the root. So I have to do that first. Okay, so I'm going to add 2 to each side. So I'm going to get the square root of 72 minus x is equal to 9. Now I have the radical as the only thing on that side of the equal sign. So I'm going to square each side. Okay, so the square goes away, or I should say the radical goes away. So I get 72 minus x is equal to 81. Now I'm going to subtract 72 from each side. So I get negative x, and don't lose that negative in front of the x. It didn't go away. So we get 81 minus 72, which is 9. Now I have to get rid of that negative, so I'm going to divide each side by negative 1. So I get x is equal to negative 9. Now we're going to go over here. And this minus 10 is not underneath the root. So I have to add 10 to each side before I square anything. So I get 1 is equal to the square root of negative 5 minus 2x. Now I can square both sides. Okay, so when I square it, I get 1 is equal to negative 5 minus 2x. I'm going to add 5 to each side. So I get 6 is equal to negative 2x. Now I divide each side by negative 2. So I get negative 3 is equal to x. This problem here. Again, I have this minus 3 that is not in the root. So I have to do that first because I have to isolate the radical. So I'm going to add 3 to each side. So I get the square root of 8x is equal to 8. Now that I have the root as the only thing on that side, I can go ahead and square both sides. So I get 8x is equal to 64. Divide each side by 8. X is equal to 8. And there you go. That is radical equations.